Ebony was very small, too small to understand what was really happening. She stood outside a tall iron gate, holding her mother's dress tightly, her little fingers shaking. The place looked strange, cold, nothing like home. Her eyes kept moving from the building to her mother's face, searching for answers that weren't coming. Her father was already gone. He had left earlier that morning, taking her sister with him. Ebony didn't fully understand it then. She just remembered her sister waving from the car, looking confused too. Now it was her turn, or at least that's what she thought. But then her mother slowly pulled her hand away. Her brother stood beside their mother, holding her other hand. He wasn't crying. He wasn't asking questions. He was just going with her. Ebony's heart started beating faster. "Mom," she said softly, her voice trembling. "Why am I not going with you?" Her mother didn't look at her. Not even once. No explanation. No hug. No goodbye. Just silence. Ebony took a small step forward, but before she could reach her again, the gate closed. Loud. Final. She flinched at the sound, her tiny body freezing in place. Through the bars, she watched her mother and brother walk away, getting smaller with every step, until they disappeared. And just like that, everything changed. Ebony stood there alone, not fully understanding it yet. But deep inside something broke, because even at that age she felt it. She wasn't lost. She was left behind. Life inside the orphanage was nothing like Ebony had imagined that day at the gate. At first she kept thinking her mother would come back. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe next week. So every time the gate made a sound, her little feet would run as fast as they could, her heart full of hope. But it was never her. Days slowly turned into weeks, and weeks into months. The food was never enough. Small plates, smaller portions. Sometimes she would still feel hungry even after eating, but there was nothing more to ask for. The older kids would rush to grab the best parts, and Ebony, she learned quickly to stay quiet, to take whatever was left. The rules were strict. Wake up early. No talking during meals. No crying loudly. No asking too many questions. It felt less like a home, and more like a place where feelings weren't allowed. And the hardest part, no one really cared. There were many children, but somehow, everyone still felt alone. If someone fell, they were told to get up. If someone cried, they were told to be strong. Hugs were rare. Kind words, even rarer. Ebony slowly stopped asking, "When is my mom coming?" Because deep down, she was starting to understand the answer. But there was one person who was different. Mama Yesai. She wasn't like the others. Her voice was soft. Her eyes noticed things. When Ebony stayed quiet in the corner, Mama Yesai would sit beside her. Sometimes she would bring an extra piece of bread, breaking it in half and giving Ebony the bigger part. "You need to grow strong," she would say gently. At night, when Ebony couldn't sleep, Mama Yesai would tuck her in properly, pulling the thin blanket over her shoulders like it actually meant something. Sometimes she would stroke her hair, slowly, carefully, like Ebony mattered. And for those few moments, Ebony felt seen. But even Mama Yesai couldn't fill the empty space in her heart. As the years passed, Ebony changed. She became quieter, stronger in a way children shouldn't have to be. She stopped running to the gate, stopped expecting footsteps that never came. One day, while sitting alone, watching other kids laugh and fight over nothing, a thought hit her, clear and painful. She wasn't forgotten. She wasn't misplaced. She wasn't waiting for someone who got lost on the way. No. She was left, and that truth stayed with her, heavier than anything she had ever carried. Every year, Ebony told herself the same thing. This will be the year someone finally comes back for me. On her birthdays, she waited the most. She didn't even care about cake or gifts. All she wanted was to see a familiar face at the gate, someone calling her name, someone saying, "We came back for you." So she would sit a little closer to the entrance that day, watching, hoping, but the gate would open and close for other children, not for her. Sometimes she would see kids getting picked up, a parent hugging them tightly, promising they'd never leave again. Ebony would watch from a distance, her chest feeling tight, her hands slowly curling into fists. She never cried in front of them, but at night, it was different. She would lie awake, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts getting louder and louder. Did I do something wrong? Was I a bad child? Why didn't they want me? The questions didn't come once. They came again and again, every single year. At first, she tried to defend them in her mind. Maybe they were poor. Maybe something bad happened. Maybe they were coming, just late. But as time passed, those excuses started to break. Because if they really wanted her, they would have come. Even once. Even for a moment. The hardest part wasn't just that they left. It was that they never looked back. Ebony started noticing things she didn't understand before. Other kids had stories. Even painful ones. But at least they knew why. Ebony didn't have that. No explanation. No goodbye. Just silence. And silence can be louder than anything. As she grew older, that silence turned into something heavy inside her. It followed her everywhere. When she laughed, it was there. When she sat alone, it was louder. When she looked at herself in the mirror, it whispered the same question again. Why me? She would study her own face sometimes, searching for answers in her reflection. Did she look like someone unwanted? Was there something about her that made people leave? She didn't know. And that not knowing hurt more than the truth ever could. Slowly, Ebony stopped expecting happy endings. She stopped believing in sudden returns or surprises at the gate. But the questions, they never stopped. They stayed with her, growing quietly, year after year, turning into a pain she didn't show, but carried every single day. One ordinary afternoon, Ebony was told to help clean the old storage room. It was a place no one really liked going to. Dust everywhere, broken chairs, old boxes stacked on top of each other, things people had forgotten a long time ago. Ebony didn't argue. She had learned not to. She just picked up a cloth and started cleaning quietly. First, it felt like any other chore. Until it didn't. In the corner of the room, behind a pile of old files, something caught her attention. A thin, worn-out folder, slightly open, like it had been pulled out before and never properly put back. She didn't know why, but something about it made her pause. Her heart started beating a little faster. Slowly, she walked over and picked it up. Dust fell off as she opened it carefully, almost like she was afraid of what she might find inside. At first, it looked like just papers. Official, boring, the kind no child would care about. But then her eyes stopped. Name. Ebony. Right there. Written clearly. Her fingers tightened around the paper. She started reading, slowly, her breath getting heavier with every line. Adoption records. Signatures. And then names. Names she had never been told before. But somehow they felt familiar. Like something deep inside her recognized them, even if her mind didn't. Her chest tightened. She kept turning the pages. There was more. A partial address. Not complete, but enough to feel real. Enough to prove something she had been questioning her whole life. This wasn't just a mistake. This wasn't just getting lost. This was planned, written, recorded. Her hands began to shake. All those years. All those questions. All that silence. And now, for the first time, she was holding something real. Proof that her past existed. Proof that they existed. Ebony sat down right there on the dusty floor, the file still in her hands. Her mind was racing, trying to connect everything, trying to understand what this meant. It wasn't the full truth, not yet, but it was something, the first real clue. And for the first time in her life, the answers didn't feel impossible anymore. Years passed, and Ebony was no longer that small girl standing at the gate. Time didn't stop for her pain. It pushed her forward, whether she was ready or not. At first, everything she did was just to survive. Go to school. Follow rules. Stay out of trouble. But slowly, something inside her changed. That quiet pain she carried, it turned into strength. She started focusing on her studies. Not because someone told her to, but because she realized something important. No one was coming to save her. If she wanted a different life, she had to build it herself. So she worked hard. Harder than most. While others gave up, Ebony kept going. Late nights, tired eyes, empty stomach sometimes. But she didn't stop. Every good grade felt like a small victory. Every step forward felt like she was proving something. not to the world but to herself. I'm not nothing. Years later, she finally completed her education. No big celebration. No family clapping for her. Just her, standing there, holding the result she fought for alone. But for the first time she felt something close to pride. After that she found a job. It wasn't perfect, long hours, low starting pay. But it was hers. Her effort, her independence. No one handed it to her. She earned it. Slowly, her life began to change. She moved out, got her own small place. It wasn't big, it wasn't fancy, but it was safe, quiet. Hers. For the first time she had control over her own life. No strict orphanage rules. No waiting at gates. No hoping someone would come back. She built her routine. Woke up, went to work, came home, cooked her own meals. Simple life, but stable. From the outside it looked like she had made it. Strong, independent, put together. But inside, there was still a space that never filled. At night, when everything got quiet, the past would come back. That gate, that silence, that question. Why me? She had built a life. She had become strong. But the truth was, she was still carrying a story she didn't fully understand. The file she found, the names, the partial address, they never left her mind. Because no matter how far she moved forward, her past was still waiting for her. Unanswered. Unfinished. For a long time, Abby tried to live without looking back. She told herself the past didn't matter anymore, that she had already survived it, so why go back and reopen old wounds? But the truth was, it never really left her. That file, those names, that incomplete address. They stayed in her mind like a quiet voice that refused to go away. And one night, sitting alone in her small apartment, everything felt too loud again. The silence, the questions, the memories. All of it came rushing back. She looked at the old folder she had kept hidden for years. Her hand slowly reached for it. And in that moment, she made a decision. I need to know. Not because she needed them back, but because she needed the truth. The next day everything started. At first, she didn't even know where to begin. The information she had was old, incomplete, almost like a broken puzzle. But she didn't stop. She went through every paper again, reading each line carefully, like maybe this time it would reveal something new. Signatures. She wrote everything down. Then she started searching. Public records. Old documents. Any place that could give her even the smallest clue. It wasn't easy. Some doors didn't open. Some answers led nowhere. Sometimes it felt like she was chasing shadows. But Abby had learned something from her past. She didn't give up. Days turned into weeks. Weeks into months. Slowly, things started connecting. A name she found in one record appeared again somewhere else. A date matched with another document. A partial address started to make more sense when she compared it with older location records. Her heart would race every time something matched. Because for the first time, it felt real. They weren't just memories anymore. They were people, living somewhere, breathing somewhere. And the closer she got, the heavier it felt. Because this wasn't just about finding them. It was about facing the truth she had waited for her whole life. What if they didn't want her? What if they denied everything? What if nothing changed? Still she kept going. Late nights turned into research nights. Her small apartment filled with notes, papers, and scribbles connecting one clue to another. Piece by piece, the picture became clearer. The names weren't random anymore. They were leading somewhere. And deep inside, Abby knew. She wasn't far now. After all these years, she was getting closer to the people who once walked away from her. And this time, she wasn't the little girl at the gate anymore. She wasn't waiting. She was coming to find them. When the truth finally came together, it didn't feel like relief. Felt like something breaking all over again. Abby had spent months connecting everything. Names, records, old addresses, small details that slowly formed a full picture. And one evening, sitting alone with all the papers spread around her, she saw it clearly. Not an accident. Not a mistake. Voice. Her hands went still as her eyes moved from one document to another. The dates matched too perfectly. The decisions were too organized. It wasn't something that just happened in a moment of panic. It was planned. Her parents didn't lose her. They divided their children. Her father took her sister. Her mother kept her brother. And Ebony, she was the one they left behind. Her chest tightened as she tried to breathe, but it felt heavy, like the air itself had changed. "Why?" she whispered, even though there was no one there to answer. But the answer was right in front of her. Financial records. Circumstances from that time. They couldn't afford all 3 children, so they made a decision. Keep the ones they saw as easier, or more important, and leave the one they didn't. Ebony. Her fingers slowly curled into the paper as another realization hit her, even deeper. It wasn't just about money. There were small notes, small patterns, things that showed preference. Favoritism. Her sister was described as bright and full of promise. Her brother as strong and needed. And Ebony, there was almost nothing. No special words. No attachment. Just her name, written like a responsibility someone didn't want. Her eyes filled with tears, but they didn't fall right away. They just stayed there, heavy, like everything she had been holding inside for years. All those nights she asked, "Why me?" This was the answer. Not because she got lost, not because something went wrong, but because in their eyes, she mattered less. That truth hit harder than anything else. It wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, cold, and final. Ebony leaned back slowly, staring at the ceiling, the papers still in her hands. For a moment, she felt like that little girl again, standing at the gate, asking a question no one answered. But now she had the answer. And somehow, it hurt even more than not knowing. Because now she understood something she had feared her whole life. They didn't choose wrong. They chose without her. It took Ebony a long time, but finally, she found them. The address from the old file led her to a different city. A place that looked nothing like her memories. Clean streets, better houses, a life that looked settled, peaceful on the outside. Her heart was beating fast as she stood across the street, staring at a house that felt strangely familiar and unfamiliar at the same time. This was it. Her family. But not the version she remembered. Time had changed them. They were no longer struggling, no longer making hard choices. They had built a comfortable life. New routines, new smiles. A life that looked like the past never existed. For them, it was gone. Or so they thought. Ebony stood there for a long moment just watching. Her hands were calm, but inside, everything was moving. All the years she spent wondering. All the nights she cried in silence. All the questions that never got answers. And now she was here. She didn't rush in. She didn't knock immediately. She just stood there, taking in the sight of people who once made a decision that changed her entire life. Inside the house they were laughing, talking casually, living normally. There was no sign that anything heavy ever happened. No guilt on their faces. No shadows of the past. Just normal life. That hurt in a way she didn't expect, because it made something very clear. They had moved on. Completely. After a while, Ebony finally walked toward the gate. Each step felt heavy but steady. She wasn't that confused little girl anymore. She wasn't waiting for answers with hope in her eyes. She had come back with truth in her hands. When the door finally opened, everything inside seemed to pause for a second. Her mother froze first, then her brother, and slowly, recognition spread across their faces. It wasn't joy. It wasn't relief. It was shock, like seeing something they never expected to come back. Ebony stood there quietly, looking at all of them, the same people who once made a decision, and never looked back. For a moment no one spoke. The air felt heavy, because the past wasn't buried anymore. It was standing right in front of them, and Ebony didn't need to say much. Her presence alone said everything. She wasn't gone. She wasn't forgotten. She was back. The moment Ebony stepped inside, the air in the room changed completely. What was once a normal, comfortable home suddenly felt tight, heavy, like even breathing had become difficult. Her mother was the first to speak, but her voice wasn't strong. It was shaky. "Ebony, you came." Her brother stood behind her, silent. Her sister looked confused, like she didn't know whether to smile or step back. For a few seconds no one really moved. Then the excuses started. "We didn't have a choice," her mother said quickly, almost desperate. "You don't understand how hard things were back then." Her father nodded, trying to support the same story. "We did what we thought was best. We were struggling. We couldn't take care of everyone. We thought you would be safe there," her brother added quietly, like he was trying to soften something that couldn't be softened. Ebony listened. Only. No shouting. No anger. No breaking down. Just silence. And that silence scared them more than anything, because she wasn't reacting the way they expected. After a moment, Ebony slowly opened her bag. She placed something on the table, then another thing, and another. Documents, records, old files. Her fingers didn't shake anymore. "This," she said softly, "is your choice." Her mother frowned, confused. "What are you doing?" Ebony looked at her directly. "These are the records. The adoption files. The signatures. The notes from that time." He paused, then continued. "This shows everything. How you divided your children. How you chose who to keep, and who to leave." The room went silent. No one spoke. No one interrupted. Even the air felt frozen. Ebony took a small step forward, her voice still calm, but heavier now. "You didn't lose me," she said. "You didn't search for me. You didn't come back." Her eyes moved from one face to another. "You left me." That word hit harder than anything else. Left. Not lost. Not forgotten. Left. Her mother's lips parted like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. Her father looked down. Her brother turned away slightly. Guilt started to fill the room, but it wasn't loud. It was quiet, suffocating, the kind of guilt that doesn't need words. Ebony didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, holding the truth she had carried alone for years. And for the first time, they had nowhere to hide from it. The tension didn't just rise. It exploded inside the silence. The room stayed silent for a long time after Ebony spoke. No one knew what to say anymore. Her mother's hands were shaking now. Her eyes filled with tears she had been holding back since the moment Ebony walked in. We wanted to protect you," she finally said, her voice breaking. "We thought you would have a better chance. We thought you would survive better there." It sounded like an excuse even as she said it, like something she had repeated to herself for years just to feel less guilty. Ebony looked at her. Not angry, not loud, just tired, in a way that comes from a lifetime of unanswered pain. "You abandoned me," she said quietly. That was it. No long speech. No emotional breakdown. Just truth. Simple. Sharp. Final. Her mother broke down crying. Her father sat down slowly, like his strength had suddenly left his body. Her siblings stood frozen, unable to defend anything anymore. The truth was too clear now. And once truth enters a room, it doesn't leave space for lies. Ebony turned slightly, placing the remaining documents back into her bag. "You don't get to rewrite what happened," she said softly. "You don't get to call it protection." There was a long pause. Legal words were mentioned in the background. Responsibility. Records. Consequences. Things that couldn't be ignored anymore. The past was no longer just emotional. It had become real in a way they couldn't escape. But Ebony wasn't there to fight forever. She had already won something bigger. Closure. When she finally walked out of that house, no one stopped her. No one followed. They just stood there, watching the life they had built quietly collapse under the weight of the truth. Later, Ebony returned to the place that started everything, the orphanage. But this time she didn't walk in as a child. She walked in as someone different, stronger, calmer, whole in a way she had never been before. She didn't come back to ask for anything. She came back to give. Ebony stood in the courtyard, surrounded by children who looked just like she once did, waiting, hoping, wondering. But this time she was the one standing tall, helping, supporting, donating, making sure they had what she once didn't. And as the wind moved gently through the space, she finally felt it. Not because her past disappeared, but because it no longer controlled her. And in her heart, One truth stayed forever. They thought leaving me would break me, but it built someone they could never control.